It's me, Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant, coming at you on the Facebooks, on the YouTubes, on the Twitters, all over the internet. Guys, I even got my phone linked into TikTok right now, so I'm kind of watching that. They're sending me some comments and challenge battles. I don't know if any of you are on TikTok. Well, I got the coolest name on TikTok. It's the Freedom Variant. Like every place else, I got to kind of mock it up or include my name to get it. But on TikTok, I got it. So tonight, guys, pre-recording for the radio show for a free solution, okay? And I'm honored once again to have a conversation with Diane Sare. Diane, I want to say thanks. Like I said to you at the LPNY convention, you are a brave soul, and I love what you're trying to do here.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're
Glad
welcome.
to be here.
So on the radio, we're going to be talking about the Ukraine-Russia thing. We're going to go down some mainstream media wormholes. We're going to do the whole hour. But as you guys know who watch the show, the likes, the comments, the shares are important. And questions, Diane would love to field them. I would love to see them. So bring them on, put them up. And so at 2 minutes, Diane, I'll do the introduction to the radio show. All right?
Okay.
Welcome to A Free Solution. It is Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant, your Thursday host, and it's Thursday, March 3rd, but as you guys know, I am out trying to earn the almighty dollar. But I did pre-record some content for you guys, and guys, I have a special guest. I have Diane Sare, and as you guys know, this is like libertarian-based political discussion. Diane is proactively seeking a Senate seat she's going to be running against Chuck Schumer. Diane, thanks once again for joining me.
You're welcome.
So how are you doing? What's going on? What let's say we all get bees in our bonnets. We get upset over things. We want issues out there that we want to talk about. For you tonight, what direction do you want to go in first?
Well, I think we are in a very bad trajectory toward a possible nuclear war. And also, along with that, either separate or together, a blowout of the transatlantic financial system.
Yeah, so everybody's seeing inflation, right? And we're seeing this problematic situation where every single day we go fill up our car, gas goes up, milk is more expensive. Our basic needs seem to be every single day getting harder and harder to attain. Is that what you're talking about, or is it even worse than that?
Well, it's much worse, actually, because the intent is to destroy Russia. And the sanctions, for example, the sanctions on Russia, which produces a huge amount of the world's fertilizer, means that you're going to have an increase in starvation all over the planet. The prices of fertilizer have gone way out of control, but since Russia is a big producer, this is going to be very badly affected. And I'll just read you something from Bruno Le Maire, who's the French finance minister. In other words, what is Putin reacting to? Was he really totally unprovoked and he just up and one day said, gee, I think I'm going to invade Ukraine? Is that what happened? Or is there a legitimacy to his claim that there's an intent to destroy Russia, a targeting of Russia? So from the French finance minister, he said, quote, yes, the sanctions are effective. The sanctions imposed on Russia are even frighteningly effective. And I do not want to leave any ambiguity about the European determination on this issue. We are going to wage an all-out financial and economic war against Russia. And then he says, the host asks him, against Russia or against Putin? And he says, against Russia, against Putin, against his government. But the Russian people will also pay the consequences. Let's be clear. We want to target the heart of the Russian system. We target Vladimir Putin. We target the oligarchs, but we also target the entire Russian economy. Well,
that's so disappointing to me, right? Because as always, and look, my libertarian creds are solid. I am anti-war. I'm anti-violence. I know that there's people behind these regimes that when we go to war, they're the ones that get punished, right? Like when we're dumping out Russian vodka, first of all, we're hurting ourselves. Second of all, we're hurting small business people that already bought that, paid for that. Like, what are we doing here? Somebody's got to help me. Diane, help me with
Right. Well,
this.
I'll tell you, the sanctions we're imposing on Russia, because remember, we began sanctions actually for a long time, and Schumer has supported every single one of them. We started under Obama. Right before Trump came in, Obama did everything he could to judo that relationship. We expelled dozens of Russian diplomats. We shut down their retreat in Long Island. Then somehow the ambassador of Russia to Turkey was shot dead in the middle of a museum tour. And on Christmas Day of 2016, the entire Russian Red Army chorus, which was on its way to Syria to cheer up the troops who were fighting ISIS, somehow the plane crashed in the Black Sea and the entire Red Army chorus died on Christmas Day. Okay, so I'm not going to say what was behind that exactly, but you look at all the context. I don't think it's merely paranoia that Russia feels that they're under attack. Then they were blamed for stealing the election, even though everyone admitted there was no evidence to support that. It explicitly was proven they didn't hack the DNC server, but nonetheless, sanctions were imposed.
Let me jump in there because people seem to forget. Like, people are still saying Russia put Donald Trump in office. Russia
Right.
did this. Russia did that. They're still saying it, even though it's been disproven. All of the main pieces of evidence were what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? It's opposition research, right? They're like
Yeah.
trying to find bad things, and the people who wrote it were like, yeah, that was like bar talk. I don't know where this stuff came up from. So, and look,
Right,
I'm
and
not
you
a
have the new revelations from Durham, from his investigation, proving that Horowitz was sitting on piles of documents implicating Hillary Clinton, the DNC, the FBI, this whole, fusion GPS, the whole thing.
the whole thing always smelled fishy to me. And look, I'm not a Trump fan. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I'm telling you that the people that want him to run again is it the mainstream media? It's the Democrats on the left wing because
Right, it
no
makes
one gets.
them a lot of money.
Yeah,
Right,
he makes
right.
them bank. They're the ones that want him to run again, man. So when we go down this Russian wormhole, so you're saying the world is out to basically break up the Soviet Union, break up
Well,
the
what it
Russia?
goes to is this. Lyndon LaRouche, who I'm a student of, I'll put it that way, worked with him for 33 years till he died in 2019, warned in the 1960s already about the US going into the so-called post-industrial economy, right? You don't produce, you don't manufacture. And once Nixon decoupled the dollar from gold, so you had no standard for the value of the dollar or currencies, you just got a wild inflation where somehow the less we produced, the higher the stock market went.
We decoupled value, real value, from the market. Like there used to be back when I first started investing, and I was never a very good investor. Don't get me wrong, right? But there was this sales to value multiplier that we used to use to value a company, and if it got above 18, we'd want to be thinking about selling it. And when it got below 12, we'd take a look at the financial outlook of this company, and then perhaps we would buy more. Now those multipliers are like in the hundreds and thousands, and they've
Right,
added this
right.
notion of growth. Like if it's growing
Right.
fast enough,
And
it's going to grow into
meanwhile,
profit.
how old are the pipes, right? How old is the sewage system in New York City? A century or so? People drown when we have rain. We have
Yeah.
buildings burning down in the Bronx. We have potholes that will swallow your car, bridges collapsing. So it's a complete fiction. Now, what you have is a group of billionaires, these bankers that met at the COP26, where Prince Charles presided over the thing, and he said, Global Britain, Global Britain. What is that? It's a bunch of banks who say they have $40 trillion at their disposal. They don't like sovereign nations. They want people to shut down their fossil fuels, and they want control of the planet, no sovereignty. And they particularly hate big nations which are growing, like India, China, Russia. And Klaus Schwab singled out China explicitly because he
So
said,
let
isn't
me
it terrible that getting out of poverty causes you to use fossil fuels?
this Klaus Schwab guy, like, look, I want him to be a clown. I want him to be a figment of everyone's imagination. And unfortunately, he's not. Like, he's a real figure. He has real like connections to these elite leaders in the world, right?
Yes. Yes. And people should know he's out cheering rah rah for Ukraine to just exterminate itself, because that's what's going to happen. Ukraine is just going to be used.
You're
Uh,
you're you're putting forth the theory, right, that this thing is Russia, the part of the NATO alliance, they kind of want Ukraine and Russia to fight and destroy each other. Is that
well, yeah, look, you have to go back to really farther, but let's take 2013, 2014, when Obama and Biden, his vice president, with $5 billion from the National Endowment for Democracy, overthrew the democratically elected government of Ukraine.
2014?
The coup was completed in 2014.
All right, we're going to head into a break. Once again, I've got to say thank you to WYSL, who puts us on every single day of the week, Monday through Friday. You've got Kevin Wilson, you've got Larry Sharp, you've got me, Tim O'Connor, sometimes Andrew Hollister. Craig Miles has been making appearances on Wednesdays. Guys, we're going to be right back after this break. All right, so we're free to kind of, plan out our next leap here.
Okay.
And talk Robert Forrest. He is been talking to me about this globalist situation for years now, and he had his own experience where they like he was pro natural gas, and in our own local county, this is how these things go, right? They took his property for a minor infraction with his taxes. They took his money, and because he was pro natural gas, and it was politically done. And
Right.
yes, friendly citizen. This I don't know what you're saying about it being pro Republican. I'm definitely not pro Republican. I think
Nor
that
am I.
yeah, I think that the Republicans in New York State, and this is with all due respect, again, because when I talk about Russia and Putin and Zelensky in Ukraine, I still know that there's people behind that. Okay. I still know that that's who we really want to talk to. That's who we really want to deal with. So somebody giving me a hard time on TikTok, I don't care. Whatever. Get over it. But I did try to answer him, and it's not pro Republican, it's pro facts. Okay. When Democrats use facts, I encourage them. It just seems like it doesn't happen as often. I don't know. And maybe that's not fair. I don't know. Let some Democrats bring me some facts and we can have a conversation about them. So, anyways, we keep going with this Russia Ukraine thing. I think there's some fire there. What do you probably got more, right?
Well, look, so in 2013, 2014, the Obama administration, with $5 billion from the National Endowment for Democracy, which is like a spinoff of the CIA,
Right.
overthrew the government, and they brought in a regime. And I don't know if you remember that YouTube recording of Victoria Nuland. I think she was Undersecretary of State for Europe or something like that. She was on the phone with the ambassador to Ukraine, Jeffrey Pyatt, and she said, I think Yats is our man, not Tani Bok, not this one. Yats is Klitsch is blah, blah. So she just outlines who we're going to put in power in Ukraine. It's totally the United States doing it. And then when he says, well, I don't know if the EU will go for it, she says, F the EU.
All right.
And doesn't ever apologize or say this wasn't herself, sort of like Hillary Clinton's emails. And this is what happens in Ukraine. Now, who comes in and does this? And this is why I say you want to look at certain things like January 6th. There is a guidebook for how to overthrow governments, do colored revolutions. And they created a provocation where somehow the police did this bizarre crackdown, which wasn't ordered by the government.
Right.
And it was at the end of one of the protest demonstrations in the Maidan when most people had left. So there are a few people there. Somehow this group of police comes in and starts beating the crap out of people. And then people react. And then these terrorists come in, totally violent, like Antifa. Turns out
Right.
some of them from Chechnya and elsewhere, throwing Molotov cocktails, setting the police on fire, storming the parliament building, beating up parliamentarians with baseball
All right.
bats.
So listen, I think we want to do this part on the radio show. So
Okay.
let's at me 5 seconds.
Okay.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. It's Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant. Joining me today is Diane Sare. She's a candidate for U.S. Senate. She's running against Chuck Schumer here in New York State. And guys, as a libertarian, I'm dedicated to I want to turn this system that we have. I want to turn it a little bit upside down. I want us to look at it a little bit differently. Diane certainly has presented some interesting information. We're going to talk some more about this. It's on the top of everybody's mind, this Russia-Ukraine issue. Diane, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. During the break, we were kind of talking about some things. But before I do that, once again, thank you to WYSL and WACK for letting libertarians have the airwaves an hour a day, Monday through Friday. So go ahead, Diane. Let's talk about it. Let's break it down. What Zelensky was a comedian, right? Like, he's an actor.
Yeah, he was a comedian. He was brought in because people thought he was for peace. He's Jewish. He speaks Russian. What happened in this coup that I was starting to talk about, run by the Obama administration, was they overthrew the elected government and brought in a bunch of people who were followers of Stepan Bandera, who was famous collaborator of Adolf Hitler in Ukraine, killed thousands of Jews, Poles, Russians, very, very brutally. And they support him to this day. They actually hold torchlight vigils marching around behind photographs of the guy. So shortly after Yanukovych was overthrown, Russian speakers in Ukraine were getting very brutally treated. There was a horrible massacre in Odessa where they were herded into a building and locked in, and the building was burned down. And this is why, for example, Crimea was not invaded or annexed by Putin. The people of Crimea held a referendum, and they voted overwhelmingly to leave the Nazis in Ukraine and reach.
So hold on. So I just want to push back a little bit here. When we start talking about Nazis in Ukraine, basically people are completely discounting that I want to call it a narrative without insulting you. But the conversation should still be had. They're saying that this is a false flag, that there are not white supremacist Nazis in Ukraine, and you're saying that there are, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. And anyone can look. You can look up Stepan Bandera. Look up the Azov battalion, AZOV. They have this insignia which looks a little bit like a swastika, but they regularly carry swastika flags. They're total white supremacists, violent, hateful. And I thought Scott Ritter, do you know that name?
I don't. Not off the top
He's
of my head.
a former UN weapons inspector, extremely credible. And I just wanted to read you a tweet that he put out. I'm trying to find, here it is. 1. Imagine if the U.S. Army had a few brigades of white supremacists who celebrated the KKK, wore the robes, burned the crosses, and actively lynched blacks. Would it be okay for the rest of the army to say, hey, don't worry, we're not all like that? This is the Ukrainian army.
And this is from now. It's coming to me who Scott Ritter was when you said he was a weapons inspector. Okay, so he's the one that tweeted this out, and he has some credibility nationally, internationally, right? Like he was pretty legit. He was a good communicator.
Yeah, he tried to stop the Iraq war. He said they don't have weapons of mass destruction.
Honestly, the Iraq war and that Iraq situation is one of the reasons I started moving towards libertarianism. I was a conservative. I believed in compassionate conservative. It was a bill of goods that was sold to me that I thought, okay, right, smaller government, more freedom, economic freedom for everyone, and we can still give a crap about people that are poor, right? Like, so I thought that was a good way to go. And then it turned out that was we started fighting wars that we didn't have evidence for, things like that. It was a very disappointing time for me. It was a very rude awakening, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, so there's Nazis in Ukraine, and they've been particularly killing Russians. And they've been, for the last 8 years, they've killed over 14,000 people in the Donbass, this region of what they call the breakaway republics, which Putin finally recognized in order to come to their defense. And no one hears about that, right? The 14,000 Russians that have been killed in the last 8 years in this
Yeah,
region.
no, I see a little bits about it on Twitter, but again, like I always go to the mainstream media is like this Operation Gaslight. Like it exists to sell advertising, and it sells advertising by selling misery and using nationalism like when appropriate. Like they hated Donald Trump and they called him a rabid nationalist, and they said that he was propping up white supremacists, and now here we are. Like I'm just not convinced of anything, right? That's where I'm at with the media.
Right. Well, let's go back to the Berlin Wall coming down, because in 1990, in February, James Baker III had meetings with Shevardnadze and I think Gorbachev, and he promised, and many witnesses are coming forward and saying that this did occur, that NATO would not expand, that NATO would not move 1 inch to the east. And instead,
And yeah, and so look, I do want to, and I apologize for interrupting you, but I do
no,
want to
that's
talk
fine.
about this concept of NATO expanding towards Russia, making Russia want to defend its build a buffer between them and NATO. And so that to me, that theory or that discussion sounds plausible. So
Right.
please feel free to expand on what you're saying. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Right.
I think there's some again, we're trying to dissect things that
Right.
there's lots of conflicting information and lots of non-information, sins of
Well,
omission, lies
exactly.
and stuff like that
So
going on.
knowing that the Nazi invasion, Operation Barbarossa, June of 1941, killed 27 million Russians or people in the Soviet Union, 1 out of 6 people, right? Putin's own older brother died of starvation in the siege of Leningrad, okay? So 1 in 6, that means every family in Russia had someone who died at the hands of the Nazis in World War II. So for them, allowing Germany to peacefully reunify was a big deal.
Right.
And they said, we will do this if you agree not to be right up on our borders. And James Baker III said, yes, absolutely, we agree. Not 1 inch.
Not
Since
1 inch
then,
closer to Russia.
right. Since then, about 14 more nations have joined NATO. And Ukraine was the last straw. And this December, Putin sent 2 treaties to the US, basically saying that Ukraine must never have nuclear weapons in it and never be part of NATO, that this was a red line. And he also had said publicly that ethnic cleansing against I'm not sure how many millions of ethnic Russian speakers are in this Donbass region, but he said if you begin ethnic cleansing there, that is also a red line. I will not allow that.
So those are the things like my friend Kevin and I, when we do our show on Friday, he regularly points out that what he calls it is the Russian troll game is strong, right? And Putin saying that he's going in to protect Russian people, Russian descendants from violence is a troll. And you're saying that that's not true, right?
No, he's saying since what he put forward as reasonable and legitimate demands, just like Kennedy could not have nuclear missiles in Cuba, what Putin said was totally reasonable, but since the West totally ignored it, and then what they also don't tell you is there were 100,000 Ukrainian troops attacking the Donbass, and one day they dropped 1,600 shells and mortars. That was 2 days before Putin recognized those republics.
Right.
So he was responding to this, and he said, we're going to demilitarize Ukraine and we're going to denazify Ukraine. We want to get rid of the Nazi elements in Ukraine.
Okay.
That's what he said. And now I would just say it's the fog of war. I think it's impossible to really get a sense of what's going on. I believe that they haven't killed large numbers of civilians because I think we would see it all over the press if they did.
Yeah.
I almost think we have more Americans being killed in homicides right now.
Right. Well, we do have a problem with violence that I feel was exacerbated by the government response to COVID over the last couple of years. We certainly took opportunity and interest away from a lot of young people who then get involved in black market situations. And I mean, there's got to be a solution to that. But if our dollar is going to collapse, the international currency is going to collapse. That's
Right.
not very hopeful.
No, what we're doing to Russia is like this, and I guess people can see me. A guy walks into a bank, points a gun at his head, and says, "Give me all your money or I'll shoot." That's what we are doing.
That's what we are doing with our
Russia.
sanctions, or with
the sanctions, because we're destroying ourselves. Germany is going to have no energy. The pipeline's shutting down. We're going to have no fertilizer, no food. Who does this benefit?
I don't know. Like, who does it benefit? Like, it does do like mass chaos? Who's it benefit?
If you're with global Britain and you think the world really should only have 1 billion people and they should be squawking baboons with a life expectancy of 26, I guess you want to get rid of fossil fuels and space programs and
Yeah, Malthusians have been around forever, right? They're always talking about how there's too many people on Earth, and
the world has been about to end for like so long.
Well, in the 60s, I can remember crawling under my desk and kissing my butt goodbye, right? And I can remember we were going to run out of topsoil, and we were going to run out of farms, and we were going to run out of food. And guys, check this out, Diane. You probably remember this. Literally in the 70s, we were running out of oil then. Okay, it was gone. It was going to be done in 5 years or 10 years. Jimmy Carter lecturing us all from the Oval Office, like put a sweater on and turn your heat down, guys. We're coming up on another break. Okay. I am totally going to make Diane change the subject, even though she's passionate about this. It's Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant, joined by Diane Sare, candidate for U.S. Senate. She's going to take it to the man, Chuck Schumer. And guys, we will be right back after these messages. All right. You got a little background noise there. I don't know if you can do anything about it.
Yeah, let me see.
I know it's hard at my house too.
No, I will. Hold on.
If my people want to make noise, they're going to make noise. But
okay.
All right. So probably leads you down the wormhole of like some of the things, maybe like the family court thing I was talking about before. We could probably get 10 minutes out of that. And we're going to talk.
I also want to talk about what I think needs to be done about this. I have a very bold proposal.
Okay. So this is, we'll kind of wrap up that and then we'll transition into something else. Okay.
Good. Yeah.
And that's fair. I think honestly, people are going to be looking to our leaders for solutions. And if I don't give you the opportunity to offer a solution to this problem, first of all, the show's called A Free Solution. Second of all, it doesn't make sense, right? You should have the opportunity to say, look, I've got great ideas that can solve this. And obviously that's what candidates are supposed to do. What's up, John McLaughlin? How are you, brother? Thank you for joining on TikTok. Look, John, nobody has hit the likes except for me and my wife. So I need somebody to hit likes for me. Do you mind hitting the likes a few times? But as you probably know, I sent you an invite too. I have Diane Sare on, guys, and we're talking about politics. And I got a little criticism from the Friendly Citizen. I'm going to try to talk to this guy later about how I sounded Republican, or the Republican Party is behind Putin. And I don't think that you're coming across as being behind Putin. You're saying this is what the international globalists want, and this is why they're doing it. And I think we can all get tricked by rhetoric, and so I'm sure some Republican senators are,
right,
or Republican statesmen. I get it.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of Republicans are supporting this war. And I don't think, unless Trump has said something else, the problem is not that Biden is not tough enough. The problem is that his policies are insane.
Well, thank you. There's something wrong with that guy. I'll be honest with you. Let's go. We'll go at 30:45, and we'll go to 40:45. I don't know if you can see the timer, but
No, I can't.
okay.
Oh, yeah, I can.
Okay. Welcome back to A Free Solution. Once again, it's Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant, WYSL, WACK. Guys, we're making it happen. The only radio station that I know of that is brave enough, the only radio station's brave enough to offer libertarians a platform 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. We get phone calls from great people. Diane has answers to some of these problems that we were just discussing about the Ukraine-Russia thing, about the globalist problems, about the issues of, check this out, guys, like the fertilizer thing, you've all saw it in the news. It's absolutely huge. We're already experiencing huge amounts of inflation in our food chain. If we give, Diane, sometimes I feel like, I want to be honest about something. I think sometimes libertarians are imperfect about foreign policy. We want no wars. We're anti-violence. We're pro self-defense. We get into issues where I think sometimes we need to expand our ideas, our own ideas about how to handle foreign policy. So right now we offered a bunch of problems. It's up to you, Diane. Solve these problems for everyone.
I think to solve this, I'd have to be president of the United States, and that's not a bad idea. But
I love it. Aim high. Why not? Right?
right. Look, at this point, and LaRouche's widow, Helga Zepp-LaRouche, who founded an international organization called the Schiller Institute, SCHILLER, and I'd encourage people to go there, put out an appeal. It's a petition. What she's saying, and I strongly agree, is that at this point, there is no solution to this. There's no, even if Russia and Ukraine came to some agreement and Ukraine agreed to not join NATO, given that you're taking Russia out of the SWIFT system and blowing up the whole system, you actually have to have a conference of nations, sovereign nations. You're going to have to reorganize the entire strategic architecture. No more NATO, no more the way that people think. Nations are going to have to come together and agree that no nation is going to make a policy that threatens the security of another nation. And if you say that's impossible, never happen, well, if you look at the Treaty of Westphalia, which ended the religious wars that really had gone on for about 150 years, the 30 Years' War ended in 1648. You would have said it's impossible. You know how bloody religious wars are. I mean, people torture each other and poke their eyes out and cut their fingers. I mean, it's horrible.
Right. This is true.
So,
There is a dark period of history where we were fighting religious
right.
wars.
So
Absolutely.
how likely would it be that these people come together and say, you know what, if we continue this, we will all be dead. Therefore, we are going to sign a treaty that everyone acts in the interest of their neighbor, that you take no action that is not in the interest of someone else. And today people would say that's impossible, forget it. But I say it looked pretty impossible then. If people realize that we are not going to survive, because we're on like this close to this going over the edge to perhaps a nuclear war. I believe that because of the irrationality of the West. We have deluded, arrogant lunatics running this country right now.
Oh, perfect. I endorse that message. I think that's great. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was absolutely perfect. That we are there. So I'll be honest though, what your treaty sounds a little bit like a libertarian philosophy. At the core root of libertarianism is the non-aggression principle that you have to pledge as a human being to not aggress against your neighbor, to not aggress against your friend. You have to pledge that to And most humans are willing to do that. It's just somehow they get caught up in this love of power. And I just see this, the Malthusians love power, and they seem to be fully in charge right now. Like,
Well,
I
they
don't know.
hate humanity. Now, the other aspect of these agreements is that you have to reorganize the whole financial system. And in the case of the United States, that means reinstate the Glass-Steagall Act, right? Separate the investment banks from the savings and loan banks.
Mm-hmm.
Put
Mm-hmm.
that firewall up so your savings account is not used as collateral for some sex pervert like Jeffrey Epstein.
I know, right?
So,
Like
I mean, that's the whole mentality. Why are we in trouble? Well, this is the whole financial district. I'm sorry.
they have a disproportionate amount of control, like, okay, guys have heard me rant about how inflation is a hidden tax. Okay, it's basically, should they raise the minimum wage, and then all of a sudden inflation comes out of the woodwork, and then all of a sudden now we're going to war. There's a world conflict that's going to make things even more expensive, and how they pay for it is by devaluing what we have, what they give us to buy our basic necessities with. It's a problem.
Right. No, you have to put the system through bankruptcy reorganization. And you're going to have to do like what FDR did in the bank holiday, where they had local people go through the books of every bank. And you're going to decide what's legitimate debt that we're going to restructure and what is illegitimate garbage that we're going to write off, because that's what's causing the hyperinflation is we're giving value to something that's valueless. You're going to try and save people's pensions, mortgages, things that are real. And the garbage, you're going to have to let it go. And then the
Yeah.
Federal Reserve, we have to get rid of it, which I know is a
And
libertarian.
that's a very libertarian.
It
I mean,
is.
we say it like amen, like people who are very religious,
But
like saying
what I
amen.
think
We're
that
saying end the Fed, end the
and the
Fed,
Fed,
brother,
but
end the
what
Fed, brother,
libertarians I
end the
think
Fed.
don't agree with is that we
Yeah.
need a national bank. We need a national bank, right, run
Mm.
by the Congress, which has to be accountable to the people.
Which they're not, right?
Correct.
They don't legislate anymore. They
No,
just
and the Congress isn't accountable to the people because they've rigged the election. So you can't vote them out. So they don't have to listen to you anymore, which is part of the big problem that we have.
they're entrenched. Their power
Yeah.
system is entrenched.
No, and you know what they did with the ballot access here in New York, right? They threw the Libertarian Party off the ballot.
Perfect segue.
You have to get 45,000 signatures. It's completely ridiculous.
It's next to impossible. And guys, if we want more impact on our political structure, we have to take a look specifically at the microcosm that is New York. They did away with third party ballot access. That libertarians aren't just a check off box for the Republican Party.
Right.
Okay, and the Working Families Party is like a check off box for the Democratic Party, like that. And then they did that. And then they granted themselves $100 million as part of the same piece of legislation. $100 million to run their campaigns with. Like, I don't know how people are not losing their minds over that and saying, how did this happen? How did we get here? And there's like, take the money out of politics. They took our money and put it in their pockets. That's politics in New York State. That's politics in New York State. So that was a great segue. You got me onto a different subject. So let's do this. Let's go down this road. Why? And you everywhere you go, you talk about ballot access. Why is it important to you?
Because for us to keep the republic, the voters have to have some way of expressing their will and having their will mean something. I mean, we're not a democracy. We don't want a democracy. That's mob rule, whoever controls public. That's why we value the filibuster. That's why we value the electoral college. But there has to be a relationship between the people and the government. And I'll tell you something, the British said this just recently in the London Economist, and it really struck me. They were talking about Nigeria, but they said even the most stable country can be destabilized if you destroy the sacred band of trust between the people and the government.
Okay, let's go back to like 1982 for me. I don't know when it happened for you, Diane, but it's been a while. Like I'm going to do a show about like all of the clownish events and all the lies where the government said, this is the way that it is. This is the way that it is. We promise that it's right. And then they were wrong. And it's happened hundreds of times and people don't seem to have a memory about it.
Yeah, that's kind of amazing, isn't it? But
I
that's,
think
I mean, that's the other problem I really think has to be addressed is culture. And as you know, I'm a musician by training. Um, and and it has to do with your view of man. Do you think human beings are beautiful? Do you think the human species is a beautiful species?
And guys, so on that note, that was beautiful. We're gonna head to another break. Diane, I want you to stay for one more segment. We've got a couple other things to hash out. I want to follow this topic down a little bit further. It's Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant, on a free solution. Yes, for you, the internet viewers, Ryan, thanks for being out there. Brian LaRusso. Yeah, so look, Brian, I'm not going to put this one on the radio, okay? And I'm not even sure I should put it up on Facebook. But as you know, I'm opposed to violence. I'm opposed to war. But like, I'm not saying that you're not making a point. I just don't want you to be right. Period. And I think that we've got to figure this out without moving towards violence. We've got to get these guys accountable. We've got to get them to listen to us. Diane has some more ideas about that. As you know, I have ideas. I ran for office. You ran for office. If we keep doing this, our popularity will grow, and we have to have an impact, right? We've got to somehow share it with our children. So yes, bonus material for you, the internet viewer. This will not go out over the radio. Anything you want to say candidly to the internet viewers, Diane?
Um, yeah, unfortunately, violence is not going to work here because the people who are oppressing us have nuclear weapons and
AKA Eric Salva.
electromagnetic pulse weapons and biochemical whatever. So we're going to have to really outsmart them. And I think we can because people who are evil are very linear. It's not creative. I mean, you're talking about the family court system. Don't they do the same things over and over and over again?
Yes, they do the same things over and over again, and they subjugate a segment of the population to another segment of the population through force, through coercion, through we'll throw you in jail if you don't comply. Like all of those threats are there, and your lawyer will break you in the family court system. They will take all of your money. They would all of it, and then you'll be left with nothing but being a paycheck for some, And again, I do believe in the innate goodness of human beings. If we didn't have a system that encouraged them to win over each other, it, it's a winner take all, loser gets nothing system, and the losers are the kids because the parents end up with nothing except anger, bitterness, and resentment because they all feel like they lost, even though one of them generally gets a paycheck and the other one gets their lives abridged, shortened, truncated, their earnings potential goes down the toilet, all of that stuff. It's brutal. So anyway, let's get some of this back on the show. And we're going to bring up my buddy Tom. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about, did you kind of finish your thoughts from the last segment? Or is there anything left sticking
No,
in your
this
brain?
question of culture and beauty.
Okay. I actually, let's lead back in with that. And give me 10 seconds. We'll go 44.
Okay.
So before the break, once again, it's Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant. But before the break, we were talking about the human being as an issue of beauty and culture, or a malignant parasite on the face of the earth. And I think when I look around on social media, Diane, I think that fully 50% of the people are convinced that we're a malignant parasite destroying the earth. Do you got any feelings about that? I know you do, but I just kind of
I
trying to
do,
lead
and
you.
I think this is destroying children. I mean, how dare someone tell a child that you're just a carbon footprint destroying the earth? No wonder they're on drugs and committing suicide and homicide, and it's really sick. No, I was thinking about the French Revolution. This is what worries me so much about the United States, uh, because in France, they hope to have a revolution like the American Revolution, which was extraordinary. But what
It
went
was.
into it, it was all the way from Joan of Arc to Nicholas of Cusa and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. What was it? We say life, liberty, and not property. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is an idea from Leibniz. Not pleasure, but happiness. What makes one happy really is that you're contributing something to the immortality of mankind.
Thank you. I love this. I love this philosophical topic. Go. This is great. I love it. I love it. Do it.
Well, that's what's human. No animal does that. No animal says, I'm going to build this house for my grandchildren.
I'm gonna plant a tree for my son to sit under. I mean,
Right.
animals don't do that.
No, and they don't change the way the beavers do what they build these cute little houses, but they haven't changed them for, it
They
doesn't happen.
There are no beaver architects.
Right.
They find a slow running stream, they put some sticks in it, and they kill a bunch of trees. That's what they do, okay? And yes, it's good for soil. Yes, it builds nice environmental centers. I get it, but also wipes out roads and stuff like that. So, like, I like beavers. I get it. They're nature's engineer, but they're not real engineers. They're not that creative. They do the same
Right.
thing over and over again. It's just a
Yeah.
genetic
No,
programming.
so it's only the human species that we actually change our species at will, because we master, somebody makes a discovery, and if you have a just society that values that, then that discovery becomes part of the new platform of society. Like whoever was the first person who figured out how to burn wood. Well, suddenly you're not eating raw meat. Suddenly you're cooking food, makes you live a lot longer.
Yes, I had these conversations with my 15-year-old when we do our little adventuring, right? Like, how did we get to where we have fire to heat our homes? Like, and now we use little tanks of gas to spread heat throughout our entire building. Like, what was the process? Like, it went from some guy finding a burning piece of wood, right? I saw a movie about it too, so this kind of helps with my, but somebody finds a burning piece of wood, they got to transport it back to their tribe, and they've got to figure out how to keep that fire going. And then at some point it clicks. They see a spark and they're like, all right, that lit up this tinder. It's just a trial and error, and life or death made
Right.
them that way.
But it's not only that. See, the incredible thing about a human is you can make an hypothesis about something you haven't seen yet,
Or
right?
even if you've only seen parts of it, you
Right.
can fill in the rest yourself and then test that theory without.
Precisely. And
Yeah.
so then you make a new discovery about nature, which gives you more power over nature. And now that's like evil. You're not even supposed to say you're destroying Mother Earth, but this is the most amazing, exciting thing. And the environmentalist movement, the green, whatever you want to call them, is so arrogant. It's like there's nothing left to discover. We've discovered it all. And therefore, we've reached the carrying capacity, and you should just drop dead.
You are hitting some high notes with things that I struggled with my whole life, right? Like, do we want better for our children, and how do we define that better? Don't we let them define it for themselves? And have we reached the epitome? Like, I want to be done arguing over roads, Diane. I've had this conversation. Like, roads could have been behind us if we didn't dedicate so much arguing and money and percentages of our resources for roads. We'd have flying cars. I'm serious. Human beings are that capable. We would have created these things to answer better, to better answer our future, right? So I love these subjects. I got to segue off or move into our buddy Thomas Daniel Queter, who is also running as a Libertarian for United States Senate. And I want you two guys to be the front runners. How do we make that happen? You got any ideas?
People are going to have to do some organizing. You're going to have to be courageous, because people say, oh, you'll never win. Schumer has blah, blah. And of
Millions. He
course,
has millions of dollars. That's a reality, right? He has an
yeah,
entire Democratic Party that is profiting in New York State. And guys, Republican Party, guess what? Republican Party is not profiting in New York State. That's why you guys don't get any help. Okay. Sorry, dumping a bad deal on you guys. But so go ahead. We got to beat a machine.
well, yeah. And I'll tell you, I mean, maybe you saw my little confrontation with Chuck Schumer at the cocktail party.
No. Oh my
Oh,
God, you got to get me a clip of that. That would be so cool.
I
I didn't
I'll
see it.
send
I'm
it to you.
sorry.
Because doing that, I have to say, really takes guts. Every time I've done it, and I haven't done a whole lot, but there are various people where you go to a meeting and you're supposed to be respectful and you're supposed to listen to the guy, and you know that you're going to stand up and not even loud, but just so everyone can hear you and say hello. What I did was, he was at this cocktail party and he came in bragging, and he was the main speaker. So
Chuck
everyone's
Schumer, the
standing around
main
with
speaker. I
drinks.
I
And
just
he
feel sorry
comes
for that
in
room.
and he's bragging. He said, I was just with this hip hop band in Staten Island, and they gave me the nickname Killer Chuck. And then he does a rap. I'm Killer Chuck, and I'm the something rapper, and blah blah. So
Hang on. What's things that never really happened for 1,000, Alex? That never really happened. Chuck Schumer is not telling the truth. But go ahead. I finish your story.
well, so then I walked right up to like 5 feet from him and started yelling, excuse me, you were right when you said you are a killer. And he was totally
Oh my
shocked.
God.
Yeah. And then I said, we have this disaster unfolding in Afghanistan. And he says, ma'am, this is not a political event. And I said, yes, it is a political event. You're here. And I'm running for Senate against you because of your policies. And I said, after 9/11, you voted. And by then, there was a commotion and people were surrounding me to try and take me out. But they were so dumb, they didn't take me out of the room. So I just waited. And then I interrupted him again. And then they
Oh,
really did take me out of the room. But I
that's
think
so awesome.
we need
Can we
truth.
charge anybody with assault for this? Like, did they assault you? Can we break news on the radio? Can we just Chuck
No, I
Schumer
mean, I
assaulted
didn't put
Diane Sare? That would
yeah,
make
right.
news.
I
That
didn't
would
put
make
up
news.
that much of a fight or go limp and make them drag me out or anything. I wanted to kind of annoy him. I wanted to unnerve him. And I think people see, why do we let these people get away and just tell us a bunch of crap that's not true?
I
I
don't
think
know.
people,
We don't. You
right,
don't. I
no.
don't. Thomas
And one
Daniel
of my,
Queter doesn't. We don't. But
right.
no one listens.
Well,
Uh,
we have to do it in their public meetings where it's improper and they get mad at you. And then they'll call us domestic terrorists, I guess, which is what's happening at the school board meetings. But
Yeah.
it's like a truth squad. And I would say that with the election, because everyone says, well, you know what's going to happen. And I don't know why you try. And why are you running as an independent? And I'll say, well, because the Republicans and Democrats obviously have a deal. Otherwise, Schumer wouldn't have been in there for 42 years in Washington. And they're going to run these two nobody candidates now, Alex Michi and a guy named Joe Pinion. I went on Joe Pinion's website. I wanted to see where he stood on anything.
He doesn't stand
Zero.
anywhere. I know. I know. And
Nothing.
to my Republican friends, and a lot of them agree that that's an issue with what's going on in the Republican Party. They don't take stands, and the Democrats promise things that they can't deliver. And between those two things, we fight over impossibilities and improbabilities, and they do it to us every single day, and that's a problem.
Yeah. And then everyone says, why are you running? It's a waste of time.
Is it?
Well,
Are you
no.
What else am I going to do? I'm going to save the world. I can't just do it by sitting at home not running. I can't do it by writing letters to the editor. I have to confront what I perceive as the problems in society. I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with Thomas. I'm with Larry Sharp. Okay. Larry Sharp went to the GOP convention this past week. He made all sorts of friends, took selfies with all sorts of people. And frankly, you're right. That's what it's going to take. We have to go there. We have to have conversations like this, and we have to be popular. And hopefully, what I'm offering here is popular. People like Diane, people like Thomas Daniel Queter, people like Rich Pertel. Okay, the guts and the grit that WYSL has by having us on is just it's amazing, and it does spark a little tiny piece of hope for the future for me, as do you, as does Thomas Daniel Queter. Like, it's real to me. This is tangible. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? I sometimes I think I'm losing my mind. I'm not sure.
I think there's the principle of natural law, and that you cannot oppress people indefinitely.
I agree.
And we saw that when the Berlin Wall came down, and that was nonviolent, by the way.
Yeah.
But people were prepared to get run over with tanks because they made a certain decision that it wasn't worth living that way anymore.
Yeah, Diane, listen, I had an absolute blast with this show. As I've said to you to your face when we've met at these events, you are a brave soul, you are a kindred spirit. This stuff is awesome what you're trying to do. I want to see you and Thomas Daniel Queter. I want you guys to be the front runner of the political discussion of who we're going to send to represent New York, to represent our kids in the future, to represent and change the future. That's what I want to have happen. So we're coming up on a hard break. It's the end of the show, Diana. An hour flew by. I gotta thank once again WYSL and WACK and the folks all over the internet. It's Tim O'Connor, the Freedom Variant. I'll be back next week. Oh wait, I'll be back Friday with Kevin. I'll talk to you later. I might have went a little long there. Oh well.
Okay.
Hopefully Bob won't get too mad at me. The show has a producer, and he's
Right.
he's a great guy. He's so helpful, and again he's LarrySharp.com. That's right.
Right. Now, where is what is this on Facebook called? What is it called on Facebook? Freedom Variant?
Tim the Freedom Variant O'Connor. I think you can find it at Tim for 51 is the tagline on Facebook. So if you're searching for something and you type at Tim 451, the page will come up.
It will. Okay.
Yeah, and guys, follow, share, whatever you want to do to help grow this thing that we're trying to do here. And TikTok, you were not a very big help tonight. You're out of here. Anyways, but thanks everybody that did hang out on TikTok. I'll talk to you later. Yeah, at one point there was like 200 people on the TikTok feed.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just finding your page, but I'm not finding the show.
The show, it also, at A Free Solution is the other page that it's on.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay, great.
And we're still live on the internet, so don't say anything crazy.
Thanks for that warning.
But also, I think that we got some comments, guys. If you're out there watching on one of the group pages, you need to know that I don't always, if I missed your comments, which I can tell when I look at my notifications that I missed some comments, I apologize. But thanks for the people that did leave comments. You've got to leave your name. Sometimes on the group pages, it doesn't make it to StreamYard, and there's literally, I don't know what to do about that. So that's how that goes. I apologize if I missed your comments, which I know I did. So my apologies. And there wasn't as many questions as I expected. I expected people would be asking a lot of questions about your opinion on Ukraine. And I think the people that we're popular with already kind of see it the way they have questions like I have questions, and you have more like you have a historical view on it, which was really awesome. Like that was great. To tie that all in together for everybody. I had to have you on with Kevin because Kevin's more like, Russian, it's propaganda. There's no, this isn't that and that isn't this. But it's always interesting to have these conversations. And Kevin's a great guy. You would enjoy talking to him.
I'm sure.
And anyway, so what's your next big campaign thing? And you got a website you want me to put up on the screen for you?
Sure. It's sareforsenate.com. And it's the word for SAREFOR, Senate.com.
I apologize for not asking about that during the show. That would have been nice to get it on the radio, but at least it'll be on this part, and it's on the Twitter and stuff like that.
Right. No, they'll find it. I should probably get running. I hear my dog complaining in the other room.
I understand. Let me put it up on the screen. Diane, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. You. And hopefully we'll grow our popularity. That's the goal. Politics is a popularity contest.
Yes,
good luck with everything. Keep it up. Keep up the good work.
Okay, thanks. You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off too. Thank you guys for being here. Check out Diane's stuff. I don't know. I don't know what the solutions are, guys, but we've got to struggle with the issues, right? We've got to struggle with the fact that politics is a popularity contest, that there are certain amounts of reality that we have to deal with. Thank you, Ryan, for being here, because honestly, this interaction, this stuff, this is why I do it. We're hoping for a better world for the future. And so that's what we've got to try, man. We've got to keep chipping away at it. All right. Everybody have a good night. Thank you all.